Content produced by Stocktrades Limited is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute as financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. Stocktrades Limited is a financial research platform, not a registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, and past returns are not indicative of future results. I may hold positions in the securities mentioned inside these videos. Always conduct your own due diligence or consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. 2.3 million. That is how many Canadians are utilizing food banks in 2026. And yes, this is a stock video, and I'm going to be covering a few stocks that are expected to benefit substantially from the cost of living crisis we're currently going through here in Canada. And one of the reasons why these stocks are not on people's radars right now is there's been a large run-up in price, and many are fearing that the tailwinds that these companies have had over the last few years are going to subside. And by large run-ups, I mean that these two companies have absolutely crushed the S&P 500, the TSX, the NASDAQ, whatever you want it to be, whatever index you want it to be over the last while here. And they still do have tailwinds. They have large tailwinds that I do not think are going to go away. So in this video, I'm going to be going over those two stocks, the bleak situation we have here in Canada in regards to cost of living, which is ultimately a tailwind for these companies. I don't want to get into the weeds of, economically in Canada or, government policy, what has been implemented, whatever it may be. I'm not going to dive into that. Instead, I'm just going to lay out the numbers for the current situation and how these two companies stand to benefit. Now, if you want the full reports that I'm going to go over for these two companies, I will leave a link in the description. It's going to send you a link to your email. You're going to get access to these reports. These are exclusive to my premium platform, but you can grab them absolutely free. And the other important thing is that you watch this video start to finish, because you will not understand the bull case for these companies if you jump around the video. But let's dive right into it. And the two companies I'm going to be talking about are Dollarama and Loblaw. If we come to the stock chart here for Dollarama, we can see a 5-year return of 214%. If we come over to Loblaw, we can see 268%. And the reasoning why these stocks have done so well over the last while is fairly simple: rapid inflation. So it is very expensive to live in Canada. And if we isolate this out to solely grocery prices, they have increased 30.1% since February of 2021. So even though headline inflation has cooled, grocery prices are still insane. And it is the one thing that Canadians need to buy. You cannot live without shelter, you cannot live without groceries, and you cannot live without utilities. You need these three things. They are vital for survival. So when the grocery element is pressured so much in price, what you end up seeing is consumers trading down. So let's just say a consumer used to shop at Sobeys pre-pandemic. They liked the stores, whatever it may be. It was a little more expensive, but you know what? They weren't pinched as much as they are right now. So they would go to Sobeys, pay that extra couple of bucks to get whatever it may be, the deli, a fresher product, things like that. Now we're seeing the point where people just cannot do this. And if we look to 2022, grocery prices are up 22%, while overall CPI is up only 13%. So food is outpacing everything. It is hitting people's wallets hard. And the difficulty here is food is not slowing down. This is an element of tariffs. This is an element of high oil prices. This is something that is not going to slow down. They are projecting 4 to 6% food inflation in 2026. So we have food inflation that is more than tripling, I guess doubling CPI overall. This is not good, and this is going to cause consumers to trade down even more. And a lot of people for these two companies I guess you could say in the midst of the pandemic, when interest rates started rising, they said, oh yeah, they're going to have a ton of tailwinds for these companies over the next few years. And then when things settle, Canadians will trade up again. They'll go back to those more expensive stores, those stores that generally offer, the frills of a full market superstore. This is, in my opinion, never going to occur again. The trade down is permanent. Wages are stagnant. They haven't moved in very long. Groceries keep going up in costs. They're never going to come down. If they get food inflation down to that 1 to 2% level, that just means it's increasing 1 to 2% over the gigantic amount that it increased over the last 5 years. And with wages not going up all that much, you are never going to get a situation where lower income Canadians can trade back up again, and you're going to get a situation where middle class Canadians are continually pushed to these discount stores, and it shows in the results. They're massive. These companies have done exceptionally well over the last while. Canadians have the highest household debt to income out of any G7 nation, and the vast majority of Canadians are simply struggling to get by. And if we look at this survey from Financial Planning of Canada, this is a kind of a pitch for financial planning, but the data inside this is very good. If we look to grocery prices and the impact of inflation continue to be the top two factors impacting financial stress. 64% of Canadians are worried about grocery prices. Now, this has been the case for years now. We're looking at 69%, 68% as we go back through the years. And if we look at the second biggest thing, it's inflation's impact on the goods and services. What is in there? Well, groceries are in there. I mean, we have people worried, almost twice as worried about grocery prices as they are rent, as they are houses, as they are their mortgage rates, as they are stock market volatility. This is a big issue. So when we look at wages that are only growing 2%, salaries expected to rise 3%, we have a massive issue here. There is less money to be allocated towards groceries from Canadians every single year. So what are they going to do in this instance? Well, we already have the lower income Canadians that are trading downwards. They've done this for numerous years, but now we're starting to see the middle class and the upper class trade down. So the tailwinds that Dollarama and Loblaw has realized in 2022 to, let's say, 2024 were probably lower class Canadians. And now we are going to see that added tailwind of middle class Canadians trading down to cheaper groceries. Will it be as rapid? No. If we look to same store sales growth from these two companies over the last few years, you look at these charts here, it was absolutely absurd when inflation hit 9%. This is going to be more of a slow bleed, in my opinion, but I think it is one that is permanent and will last years. There will be more higher income and middle class Canadians that will eventually head to these stores to save money. So now that I've dived into the current situation, the constant tailwinds these companies will have, we can dive into the individual companies themselves. So what is Dollarama? They are effectively the most efficient dollar store on the planet. Now, the one quick thing I want to show you with Dollarama is its operating margins, and this is what I mean by it is the best dollar store operator on the planet. If we come down here to the competition section of the screener or the stock reports, you're going to see operating margins, and you're going to see Dollarama at 26.7%. We're going to see one of the biggest competitors, Dollar Tree, 8.5%. Dollarama has nearly triple the operating margins as something like Dollar Tree, and this is primarily because Dollarama operates a very, very tight inventory model. Not a lot of SKUs in that store, typically only 1 to 2 products of each type, makes shopping easier, makes inventory handling easier, all that type of stuff. Now again, when we look to return on invested capital, we're looking at 21.4%, absolutely crushes the other dollar store models here. Dollarama is very, very good at reinvesting capital at high rates of return. It does this by putting new stores, investing in things like the Reject Shop in Australia, which they're currently turning around, Latin American exposure through Dollar City, that is growing at a crazy pace. And now they're running pilot projects in Mexico, which is going to be cash loss for a bit here, but is eventually going to turn profitable for that company, I believe. Or if it is not going to be profitable, they just will kind of cease operations trying to expand in Mexico. Now, the one thing you might notice is we look at a forward PE of 34.1x, and we see Dollar Tree at 15.2 and Dollar General at 16.4. Dollarama trades at a massive premium because the runway is larger and the business is much better. When you have these underlying metrics that are so much higher than your competitors, you're inevitably going to trade at higher valuations. Now, when we come to the valuation segment of Dollarama, you're going to see a price to earnings ratio of 37.3x, which is much higher than historical averages. Now, if we go to the valuation zone charting here, you're going to see that the company looks very expensive. Now, this is Dollarama's 10-year historical price to earnings. Now, why might that not be the best indicator of the company's results or the company's valuation, I guess you could say? Well, tailwinds that existed from 2022 till now did not exist pre-pandemic. This is a situation where Dollarama's results are primarily fueled by the fact that Canadians simply cannot afford groceries. They cannot afford consumables from more expensive stores. So I believe this valuation, although it is still expensive, it's a defensive retailer that is seeing massive tailwinds and, in my opinion, permanent tailwinds from an environment that is just going to continue to accelerate in the future. So this chart is a bit misleading in my opinion. Yes, Dollarama is expensive relative to historical metrics, but I think we need to kind of think of the forward environment versus the pre-pandemic environment. Now, again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on all of these metrics. The video would run on forever. If you want the full report and to dig into everything here, again, go to the description, grab that report. You'll get an email that will give you full access to this report. You can dig around the whole thing. But when we look to the overall grades, we can see a 5.5, and that's likely because valuation is dragging it down. But this valuation score is, in my opinion, underrepresented. Like, I don't think that this company is expensive as it seems, and that is primarily because historical averages do not include the potential tailwinds this company has in the future. When we look to outlook, we're looking at high single-digit earnings growth, which is completely respectable for a defensive retailer that's not going to have a lot of the cyclicality. So I really don't think that this is all that bad of a price to pay for Dollarama today. We are probably 20% off highs. If we go to, 13.7% off 52-week highs. The company had a weird earnings report in which it mentioned weather kind of dragged on same-store sales results. If the company comes out next quarter and it does end up being a weather impact that was causing less people to come to the stores, I would not be surprised if this one got back to 52-week highs. There's a lot of tailwinds here moving forward. This company is on my watch list right now. If there's any sort of downwards pressure additionally in terms of price, I would be adding it to my portfolio because this is just an outstanding operator. The second one I wanted to go over was Loblaw. Now, Loblaw is more that element of groceries. Dollarama has a lot of consumables, things like that. Loblaw is more of the, let's say, fresh produce, all that type of stuff, the meat. You don't really go to Dollarama for something like that. Now, Loblaw's does have a lot of chains, but the one element of this company that is working well right now is its discount chains, like something like its No Frills. They are investing heavily into their No Frills brand, their discount brands, because they know that this is where the money is going to be made moving forward. Now, Loblaw's is a foundational stock over at Stocktrades Premium. I highlighted this stock back in 2020 when it was cheap. I kept it on the list throughout the years because of these tailwinds moving forward. I cannot see a situation where I remove Loblaw from that list. The top 5 grocery chains in Canada command 80% of the market share. And who's number one? Well, that's Loblaw. 50 of their 80 new stores in 2025 were discount chains. And they expect that discount chains will account for nearly a quarter of sales in 2026. And what Loblaw is doing is taking their full service stores that are struggling, the ones where you have the deli, the ones where you have all this type of stuff that ultimately impacts margins and they have to charge higher costs for goods. They're turning a lot of those into No Frills stores. They're targeting the ones that are underperforming. They're stripping out the full service end of it, turning it into No Frills, because realistically, at this point in time, when groceries are so much of people's income, they don't care about the frills that a full-service grocery store has. They want to trade down. They want minimal costs as possible. Now, I'm not going to repeat a lot of the same stuff I did in the Dollarama side of the video. Instead, I'm just going to go here and show you the profitability of a company like Loblaw. Now, we have obviously razor-thin margins. So for every dollar they earn, they only profit 4 cents. Free cash flow margins are 7 cents. Sign of a good company is when free cash flow margins exceed profit margins, and Loblaw is almost double. But the one thing I do want to show you is return on equity, invested capital, and assets. Look at the trajectory here. Look at how much it's increased over the last 5 years or so. We're seeing Loblaw become a much more efficient company. There is absolutely no question. Pretty much every single one of these metrics has went up and to the right since 2019, and we're looking at a 23.2% return on equity and a near 10% return on invested capital. Very strong numbers from a defensive grocer. These low margin businesses thrive on volume. And again, 80% of grocery sales are controlled by the top 5 grocers, and Loblaw owns the number 1 spot. So it's all about volume at this point in time, and the more it can trim those full-service grocery stores down to discount stores, those stores have higher margins. So they can, in turn, offer consumers lower prices for their groceries, and because they do not offer a lot of the cost-heavy elements of those full-service grocery stores, they can make more money off them, all while providing the consumer with lower prices. So huge tailwind here. The company generates so much free cash flow that it can reinvest into its previous stores, whether it be improving refrigeration aspects to cut costs, whether it be those no frills conversions, that even if revenue does not grow all that much, it's going to be able to grow earnings at a pace much faster than that. And it can do this by buying back shares, it can do this by converting stores, and it can do this by making its stores more efficient. And when we come to the financials here, we can see this pretty much clear as day. I mean, if we look to 2016 to 2019, you can see a company that typically flat revenue growth. Maybe if you got 3% out of this company a year, you'd be doing pretty well. However, we come post-pandemic, post-rapid inflation, 2022, 6.3%, 5.4%, 1%, and then back up to 6.3%. And the earnings is even better than that. It's in the low double digits. Overall, these two companies, I mean, obviously I explained the situation, the tailwinds, all that type of stuff. There's one thing they have in common outside of the tailwinds that they'll both get over the next 5-10 years here, and that is outstanding management teams. Both of them are outstanding capital allocators. You can see that by the returns on invested capital, the returns on equity, all that type of stuff. And if you think you're paying too much for these companies right now because they ran up a lot in price, I just don't think that's the case. In my opinion, I think these companies have plenty of tailwinds moving forward. Now, that said, is there 200% upside over the next 5 years? Probably not. Not what they've had in the past, but that does not mean that they will not be solid investments. I think a lot of people are chasing AI names, high growth names, all this type of stuff. Their portfolios are way out of whack, way risk concentrated. And if you can get a market beating return from a defensive retailer, that kind of helps shelter the portfolio in the event we see a 15, 20, 25% correction in the S&P 500. These companies, they're boring. They're purposely boring. A lot of people don't want to own them because who wants to own a company like this when you can buy, an AI company growing revenue at 80%? But the thing is, a lot of those AI companies are absolutely priced to perfection, whereas these companies are expensive, yes, but the tailwinds is not relying on AI buildouts. It's relying on something that is undeniable, and that is the absolute cost of living crisis that we are facing here in Canada. So hope you like the video. I thought I'd bring these two companies up because I'm getting a lot of questions on them over at Premium, just emails, whatever it may be, YouTube comments as to whether or not they are overpriced at this point and if there's still upside here. Yes, I do think there is still upside here, not as much as before, but doesn't mean they're not high quality companies. So again, everybody, if you want these full reports on these companies, head down below into the description. You can click the links, enter your email. It'll email you this entire report. This analyzes a company in full, and they're outstanding reports for anybody who wants a bit more of an in-depth look at these stocks. And as always, we will see you next time for more great investment content.